So you're looking to install a piezo bridge on your electric guitar to get some good acoustic sounds during live shows. But you've heard that it might not sound that good through an electric guitar amp. Well, I'm going to show you. Stay tuned. Man Bun Metalhead here. In this video, I'm going to show you the difference between running a piezo bridge through an electric guitar amp or an acoustic preamp. Now, what I'm going to be using for this demo is this Warmoth guitar that I built with a piezo bridge. And if you want to see some demos of the bridge itself in different positions, check out my other video. But I'm going to be using this guitar. It has a LR Baggs piezo bridge, as well as the Control-X preamp. For my electric guitar amp, I'm going to be using an ENGL Gigmaster 30. Now this amp is pretty much a metal amp and is not very well known for the clean tone. It's got a good clean tone for metal, which isn't saying a whole lot. So this is kind of a worst case scenario, I think, for a lot of people. Your amp might vary a little bit. It might have a better clean tone. It might have an even worse clean tone. But I'm going to show you the differences between that amp as well as a acoustic preamp. The acoustic preamp I'm going to use is the Fishman ToneDEQ, which I used in my previous video. As far as effects go, I'm not using a whole lot. I'm using a little bit of a delay with a guitar amp, and there's a bit of compression in the ToneDEQ, the acoustic preamp, and I will be using a little bit of compression in electric guitar amp, but I'll get into that in a little bit. You might also hear a little bit of reverb on the guitar tracks. Now, I use the exact same reverb on both electric guitar amp and the acoustic preamp. Just did that in post. Now here's the piezo bridge with the acoustic preamp, just to give you a taste of what that sounds like. All right, so that gives you a decent acoustic sound. But something like that might not be possible when you're doing a live scenario, because you'll need a separate DI output to go to the board. So if you run this through an electric guitar amp, I'll show you what it sounds like. Now this is without any compression at all. Now it's actually not so bad. It doesn't sound exactly like an acoustic, but it's going to sound kind of close. It's going to give you a different sound than the magnetic pickup. So here's the magnetic pickup. This is actually single coil on the neck pickup. So there's that. It's obviously a different sound, but the piezo actually doesn't sound too bad. It does sound a little twangy, and that's, I think, where the compression comes in. So there's a bit of compression. I am using an Empress compressor. So I'll pull up a feed right here and you can see how much compression is actually going in, but it helps smooth out that kind of the twanginess, maybe the harshness of the piezo going through the electric amp. So we'll go back to no compressor. Compressor. Yeah, funky chord, but gives you an idea what the compressor can do. So it really helps flatten things out there, which I really like. Now, so there's a couple other things that you can try out with the piezo, and that is mixing it with the magnetics. So I mix it single coil on the neck pickup with the piezo, and it's right about 50%. So let's try that. So that gives you a little bit of that pluckiness you get from the acoustic, which is kind of neat, and it also adds a little bit of body from the magnetics. So it's not a bad option. So go back to the piezo. Then the mix. So I'll go back to the acoustic preamp and kind of show you the difference there. So that's the piezo megs mixed. And you can definitely tell the difference between the two with the electric amp and the acoustic preamp, but the electric amp actually doesn't sound that bad. So that's a quick comparison between the piezo bridge through the electric amp and the acoustic preamp. Now obviously your mileage might vary. You might have a different amp where it sounds not as good, but really I think that this being a metal amp is going to give you a worst case scenario. Now there might be some older Mesas that have really bad clean channels that might not sound so good through, but you really never know until you try. The number one tip I can give you though is run it through a compressor. It doesn't have to be an Empress. It can be, there's a lot of compressors out there. There's a lot of decent $100 compressors that you can easily go with and try those out, but I would highly recommend a compressor going through an electric amp with a piezo bridge. If you still aren't sure and you're kind of hemming and hawing on it, if you have one or know a friend that has one, I would suggest running an electric acoustic guitar through your electric amp and see how that sounds. So they use piezo pickups typically, which is similar to this. So that might give you a good idea how that's going to sound through an electric amp. Again, highly recommend the compressor. Hopefully you found this helpful. If you did, give me a like. And if you want to hear more about what I'm doing, please give me a subscribe. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments for me. I'm pretty good at getting back to all those questions. But until next time, rock on.